A very good evening and welcome to the State of Scottish Football. It's Thursday evening. A lot to speak about first and foremost, but let's get on to the priorities and say we are sponsored by Ed of Watches. Sorry, I'm picking the wrong side. I might be picking on the right hand side. My hands are a bit wrong this evening, but I'm not the only one on this show this fine Thursday evening. I'm joined by a lovely Celtic man, the lovely Regan Stevenson. Regan, how are we this fine Thursday evening, my friend?
David, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
You've been in these type of shows before. You've been in the Celtic State of Mind, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been great to be on the show, and it was great to be on last week when Paul was picking up the awards for Celtic State of Mind. So yeah, it was good to be on.
Absolutely. As Colin alluded to last night, we just want to be nominated for an award in London next year, let alone winning awards. So full credit to Paul John Dykes and his team for winning the awards, courtesy of the Celtic State of Mind. They all do some great work, and we're all trying to strive for the same here in the State of Scottish football. First and foremost, Regan, we're going to go on to Rangers against Brøndby. A big game this for Rangers this evening.
Yeah, I mean, David, I was looking at the Brøndby. They're sitting sixth in the table. So I think this is a game that Rangers can do very well in.
Yeah, when you look at Brøndby, I haven't done my full homework. I'm not going to lie to you on that. But when you look at Brøndby, you look at them and go and say they're a side struggling in confidence, they're a side low on the table. And for Rangers, this is a big opportunity because their European campaign hasn't got off to the best of starts.
No, I mean they've only won 3 games in the Dutch and the Danish top flight this season, so I think this is a game that Rangers can definitely do well in, especially because Rangers have not been playing too well themselves, so they'll be hoping to start the season well as well, David.
As for Rangers, do you sense that they need this victory more than Brøndby when you look at it in a wider context?
Yeah, I think they do it because I don't think Brøndby will go further than the Europa League. So I think in terms of Rangers, because they'll be looking to get the 3 points here, yeah.
Absolutely. Just when you look at the chat hen in this game, and there's been a lot of talk about Alfredo Morelos, Colin and the guys spoke about this last night on the show, and he's 1 goal away from 100 goals for Rangers, but there seems to be a sign within the Rangers camp, Regan, that there seems to be an overthinking factor between Alfredo Morelos and not scoring and not scoring enough goals. But you're looking at it and going, could Alfredo Morelos hit the onion bag more for Rangers?
Yeah, I mean he done very well last year when Rangers they obviously won the league by 25 points, but obviously this year he went away with his national team to the competition over in South America, and he's not really come back in the best fit, I would say. So he'll be looking to get on the score sheet, definitely, David. Yeah.
Yep. Right, we're going to bring up some comments. Thanks very much for sending the comments. You're already getting some good plaudits here, Regan. We've got Bahoy Avelli saying, "All right, guys." Yep.
How you doing?
Based on what was said in the press, Regan, Connor Goldson was speaking to the press yesterday and was saying it was a massive game for us, a must-win after the first couple of games. We need to go on a run in this group, and that starts tomorrow. When you play for Rangers, you need to win every game of football, and that is the demand of this club. It is great. We are creating the chances, but we need to start putting them away, and that's the big thing from a Rangers point of view. They need to take the chances, but most importantly, get the 3 points, Regan.
Yeah. I mean, David, I watched the highlights of Rangers, the game they played on Saturday, and I think they played very well, but they just couldn't take the chances. So I think tonight they need to be more very good in front of the goal and try and get as many goals as possible. Yeah.
As for Steven Gerrard, he was like everybody got through the weekend. Ryan Kent is closer to return, but this game is a little bit too soon. Ryan Jack is progressing and should be back on training around the Aberdeen match. But excuse me, Regan, when you look at Rangers as a whole, they've got a lot of quality in their team, and that's without Kent and Ryan Jack. But you look at Rangers and go, this, if they can take a big 3 points without the likes of Kent and Jack, it probably suggests the strength and depth that Rangers have at this precise moment in time.
I mean, I think Rangers have got a great squad, David. I think the big thing for me, I mean, you look at that midfield area, they've got so many options. They've got Stephen Davis, John Lundstrom, and Glenn I mean, you've got so many options for Rangers, so I think this could be a game that they'll definitely be targeting 3 points.
By the way, I always keep forgetting to say who I am. I'm Dave Smith, by the way. So I always keep forgetting to tell all you viewers out there who I actually am. So hello, and hope you're all doing fine. From a Rangers point of view, Regan, the thing is that Rangers probably have won games, but they probably haven't played at the level they're capable of so far.
No, they haven't. And I'm just wondering, is that because the fans are back in the stadium? Because James Tavernier said in his programme notes in the last game before the pandemic that Rangers struggled with the fans being back. I don't know what you think, David.
Yeah, I'll elaborate on that by saying I think Rangers won the league last season in the fashion that they did, primarily because of the fact there was no fans. And this has been a view that's been acknowledged here as well. I mean, when you look at Rangers last season, they played with such a calmness about them, and that's why they managed to pick up the wins they did and also stay undefeated in the league terms. And that's the thing. They played with such a calmness across the whole park, and while Celtic kind of imploded to an extent across last season, which obviously deteriorated any hope of them winning the league, and obviously cost Neil Lennon his job back in February at the time. But in terms of the strikers, Gerrard acknowledged that all his strikers need to score more goals. These are stats we need to improve on, and also to keep providing the service. And as much as Morelos has been scoring goals, and but he maybe doesn't score enough for people's liking, you also look at this. The other side and suggest should likes a roof and other attackers be scoring more goals.
Oh, definitely. I don't know if Rangers will go back in January and try and buy a striker if the gap is closed with Celtic. But I would say Alfredo, he's not really performed the way that he would have hoped. I would say, David. But in terms of the other guys, I think they need to be doing more.
In terms of Brøndby, you alluded to it perfectly at the top of the show, Regan. They're sixth position in the table. They've played 12 games, and it is a worrying picture from a Brøndby perspective. But you also look at their table, and there's 12 teams in the league. So it's fairly similar to the Scottish Premiership, and it's maybe a marker to see where Brøndby are at just now.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the Danish top flight earlier, and Brøndby's only won 3 games all season, so I think this is a game that Rangers will be definitely looking to capitalise. That I think the same way that Celtic against Ferencváros, where this is a game that they need to try and do their best to win. Because in terms of the other games, I don't think Rangers will win though.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to look at some of the players that could potentially cause havoc upon Rangers this evening. Obviously, Scottish football will want Rangers to win it in European terms. Though in club terms, you obviously support your own teams and want your own teams to go and get the result. But Brøndby are playing a 3-4-3 formation normally, Regan, and that could be pivotal in terms of tonight because Rangers are quite a forward-thinking side, but they also get a balance right in midfield as well. So it's important that they get the overall philosophy right. Also, there's the potential for exposure in that Brøndby backline as well.
See, the big thing for me, David, is that Rangers will probably dominate the ball. So as long as Rangers can take their chances when they're dominating the ball, I think it should be good because I don't think Brøndby are capable against a standard of a side of Rangers to really cause a threat.
Do you know much about the Brøndby team, Regan?
No, I don't know much about the Brøndby team.
Okay, I'll try and go through a couple of the players then. They've got in the goals Thomas Mikkelsen, a player that's been there and done it for Brøndby. He's not actually been capped by the Danish team, but he's been about in the Scandinavian world for that matter, and played for various clubs. And he's 38 years old, and he's probably going to be a big player for Brøndby tonight just for his experience.
I think experience is such a big thing. You look at going to places like Ibrox, Celtic Park. I think experience is a big factor when you go to these places, especially when the atmosphere of the stadium. David.
Yeah, absolutely. And one player that is just breaking into the Denmark setup actually is a player that plays for Brøndby as well called Andreas Maxo. I've got that right there. Who played for FC Zurich and he also played for Nordjylland. So he's been there and done it, and he'll be another big player for Brøndby this evening. And he'll probably be up against Morelos, which will make for an interesting tussle.
Oh, it's always interesting when we have Alfredo Morelos. I mean, he's not too far away from controversy, but I think it'll be very good to watch, David, tonight.
Yeah. Somebody's came in to say hi, Regan. Harry Ferry 69 saying, nice to see the young Regan on. The lad loves and knows his fitba.
Thank you.
Absolutely. When you look at Rangers on domestic terms, first and foremost, can you look at them and say the weekend's maybe a little bit disappointing considering Hearts equalised late on in the game through Falkirk?
Yeah, I would say from Steven Gerrard's point of view, he would probably be disappointed that Rangers were not so ruthless, because if you look at Rangers from last season, they were very ruthless, and that's when they took teams away. I think this season they've not been as ruthless. But yeah, I think Steven Gerrard, they're looking to approach it in a way that Rangers can go on the front foot and do well. David, yeah?
Now, obviously, just to clarify, folks, that me and certainly not Regan or Rangers supporters for that matter. So the remainder of this Rangers section of the show, I'm going to rely on the Rangers review to get us over the line with. So in terms of the Brøndby side of things, first and foremost, they were actually the champions last season. So they are in a transition period, I note, but it must be a concern that they are not consistent enough.
Do you mean in terms of Rangers, David? Yeah.
Brøndby, sorry.
Brøndby. Yeah, I think in terms of Brøndby, I don't think they'll be expecting too much tonight, because I think the calibre of the teams that Rangers have beaten in the Europa League previously, I think that they'll be expecting a very tough game, because Rangers have beat some teams like Spartak Moscow, Villarreal. They've beat some really good teams. So I don't know what Brøndby will be expecting from tonight, David.
And the thing from a Rangers point of view is they've scored a lot of chances lately, the Rangers attackers, so it's probably imperative that they go and take their chances this evening.
Oh, David, it definitely is, because as much as they say the confidence can flow through a team, a confidence can go out of a team too. If Rangers are not taking the chances, that's when the big players need to step up and do well.
Glenn Kamara suspended. That's probably going to be a big miss for Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, he got sent off in the last game, which was not very nice for him. Obviously, what was happening during the game. But yeah, he'll be a big miss. But as I've touched on earlier, I mean, Rangers, they have got a big squad, so I think they'll be able to cope with that, David.
Yeah. In terms of that midfield setup, it's probably going to be. I'll give you my predicted lineup here. I'm going to go for McGregor and goals. I'm going to go for Tavernier, Goldson, Balogun, Barisic, and I'm going to go for a midfield of Davis, Lundstrom, Aribo, Hadji. I think Scott Wright will start tonight. I think they'll go for Morelos up front. So with that in mind, I think they'll go for one up front and they'll play a 4-2-3-1. What do you think?
I think they'll play that, David. But I just want to ask you a question. Do you think Parson should try and move on from Rangers? Because I think he's a great player, David. In terms of Tavernier, I was thinking maybe Tavernier might move on in January, because you can't leave Parson out, especially because Parson's wanting to play for Scotland as well, David.
Yeah, well, I think he's got to be managed perfectly, if I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, Everton came in for Patterson's services back in the summer there, and Gerrard wasn't really keen to let Patterson explore that option. I think just because, obviously, he was good in form, and Tavernier was kind of on an injury-stricken spell at that period in time. So you look at it from that perspective. But I think Patterson needs to move on in January or indeed next summer, just because, first and foremost, as you alluded to there, it will boost his Scotland hopes, but also it will help him in terms that he's playing at a far higher level. You often find with Steve Clarke's Scotland squads that if players go and play at higher levels, such as the Premier League in England or even the Championship in England, you often find that Steve Clarke will go for that approach. He'll obviously go for an approach in terms of bringing in players from the Scottish Premiership, and that's a good thing. But in terms of the Premier League in England, it offers so much exposure to these players, but also it offers so much exploitation. Also, in terms of, you look at what happened with Kieran Tierney to Celtic and moving to Arsenal, he's probably one of Arsenal's best players right now. When you look at it, just because, or indeed one of Arsenal's best players defensively, and he replicated his football at Celtic. And I think that would be the hope from a Rangers perspective or Nathan Patter's perspective, just in the sense of if he goes to like an Everton again, for example, it would be good for Nathan Patterson to maybe replicate what Kieran Tierney did at both Celtic and then Arsenal.
I think it would, because if you look at Tierney, I mean, I think he should move on from Arsenal, because they're not doing too well, and he's always the player that stands out for me, David.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of Patterson for Scotland, whilst we're on the showboat, so to speak, do you think he's been hard done by in the Scotland persuasion, just in the sense that he should maybe been called up for the Faroe Islands game, and that maybe slowed down our system in the way that Scotland wanted to play in that evening in question?
Well, Steve Clark's a big fan of Stephen O'Donnell, as we know, and Stephen's a big player for Steve Clark for Scotland, so I can understand from that, but I think Nathan Patterson is a far better player, and I think he should be a big player for Scotland. Yeah, David.
Yeah. One thing that I'd like to touch upon back on tonight's game from Joshua Barry of the Rangers Review, and he goes and says the opposition are expected to try and profit in the break. There may be a greater requirement for intelligence as opposed to pace in the front line. That's probably going to be pivotal tonight, because I mean Brøndby are an okay side moving forward. They're not renowned for scoring loads of goals, but they are renowned for getting good areas and getting good. They've got good pacey players, and that could be a big thing from a Rangers point of view for this evening.
I mean, like I said, David, from a Rangers point of view, they just need to be smart and make sure they do all the things properly. Because if Rangers do the things properly, then Brøndby shouldn't be a problem. In terms of Brøndby being 6 in Denmark, David.
Pardon me. Yeah, no, absolutely. Right, Regan, have we got a score prediction for this evening?
I'm going to go 2-0 to Rangers.
Yeah, I'm going to go 1-over, and I'm going to say 3-0, but I can't wait for a meme to come out if that goes unbelievably wrong. So time will tell, obviously, but that game kicks off at 8 p.m, and here's hoping that the Rangers can replicate the performance of Celtic from Tuesday night, who put in a fantastic performance, obviously beating Ferencváros by 2-0. We go on to Celtic next, and one thing that I touched upon when doing my research for tonight's show, Regan, is the contribution of both Kyogo Furuhashi and Jota, and they were both very pivotal in terms of the outcome of the Celtic winning Tuesday night, Regan.
Yeah, I mean, I first of all just want to talk about Jota and that pass. I mean, the pass was just incredible to see. Yeah, I mean, Celtic have been playing so well. I mean, I think the players are starting to adapt under Ange Postecoglou. I'm just really impressed with the way they're going about it.
Yeah. The thing is, from a Jota point of view, he's undroppable on the Celtic side right now. But the fact that he's wanted to learn from Kyogo Furuhashi just goes to show that his attitude is massive right now. Just in the sense of he's not gotten too carried away from his performance the other night, and he's wanting more. Basically, he's wanting to up his standards.
I mean, David, I mean, you're spot on there. In terms of Jota, I mean, if Celtic can buy him for £6 million, I think that'll be the bargain of the century. I mean, see at the moment, I think he just looks so good to watch, David. Yeah.
The thing is that you can already tell that they've got a really good relationship with each other,
and I think that helps. I mean, if you look at all the great partnerships in football, I mean, you just need to look at Liverpool with Salah and Mane and Aguero and De Bruyne. All of these players have great relationships, and if that happens, then it means it's going to be beneficial at Celtic Park when they're playing football together.
The thing is that he told the Scotsman that he wants to feel at home with Kyogo Furuhashi, but maybe a language barrier that they maybe need to go and get sorted out as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember this, David, but remember Nakamura? He said that he couldn't speak English when he was at Celtic, but he still managed to score a lot of goals.
Yeah.
So,
A good points came in here, and I'll get your thoughts on this, Regan. We'll just wait for it to come up. Oh.
here we go.
Oh. There we are. Sorry about that. Celtic are too dependent on the Kyogo and Jota. You can't expect them to carry the load every game. Would you agree with that, Regan?
I would definitely agree. I mean, I touched on last week when I was on Celtic State of Mind. I mean, if you look at Celtic, I think the squad depth is the biggest problem, and I think that's where Angel addressed in January. I think that's where the Celtic board will need to back Ange, because if you look at Ajeti, I mean, Ajeti was here last year. Celtic never used him. Ajeti was here during the Champions League qualifier, and Ange didn't use him. So I don't know if Ajeti's got a future at Celtic. So I think in terms of Kyogo, I mean, you see the impact that he has, and I don't know about you, David, but I think he has an impact in the whole place. I mean, the whole squad plays better when Kyogo plays.
Well, I've made the point in this show, Regan, that when Kyogo Furuhashi came back at the starting lineup, he also came back at the starting lineup against Leverkusen, and Kyogo couldn't make it that big a contribution, not even in question. It was fair and square that Celtic were beat fair and square, not even in question. But before I reply back to your question, sorry if Hanny Fenny 69, because I accidentally pressed your comment there by accident. It was my laptop playing up, so apologies there, Harry. But back on your point, Regan, and yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Kyogo Furuhashi came in for the Leverkusen game and could do anything that even in question, because the Germans just ran ragged over Celtic that night. But then on the Sunday, Celtic went to Pittodrie and picked up a fine 2-1 win. And I wholeheartedly say this to people that if it wasn't for Furuhashi, I don't think Celtic go win the game that day, because Celtic did play well, they played some good football, got into good areas. But the one thing that was lacking from a Celtic persuasion was the fact that they weren't exactly getting enough balls or bodies forward. And Furuhashi showed great intelligence for the first goal. Ball gets crossed in, and then Furuhashi gets in front of David Bates. Yeah, you could argue a case that's scope-like defender from Bates' point of view, but irrespective, great intelligence by Kyogo Furuhashi to get in and nod the ball home, and it was pivotal in terms of getting Celtic their first away win since February, which is hard to think about when you look at the wider context and the history and the tradition and the overall success of Celtic Football Club. But that's where they were at, and Celtic kept their fine momentum up with a good victory from everyone. You could tell with Kyogo coming back that it's probably helped the team, because they've went in a really good run ever since.
I mean, if you look at the first goal Celtic score, it's Kyogo that's chasing the ball down, David.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing with Jota as well is he's slowly developing into the Scottish game. I mean, not that he had a slow start by any stretch of imagination, but you finally get to see the real roots of Jota. And that 50-yard pass was sensational on Tuesday night. I mean, Amy made the point in this show on Tuesday night that if that pass is getting made like Liverpool or Manchester City or any other top-class, world-class team for that matter, we're all going to Sky Sports or BT Sports or whatever and going, oh, it was that pass that got us to go. It was that pass that did that. It's pass of the year. So loads of expletives would have been said, not even in question. But because it's Celtic, it'll be swept under the carpet a little bit, which is very disappointing. And the fact that it's a Europa League game when it's mixed in with the Champions League games, and yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Sky Sports watcher. I'm not a big BT Sports watcher. I'm a big Celtic State of Mind and the State of Scottish Football watcher, and that's the thing. I've hardly seen any footage on Sky or BT with that goal on Tuesday evening. It was a touch of class from a Celtic point of view.
Yeah, it was definitely so good to watch. I mean, if you just look at Kyogo for a minute, he's just so intelligent. That, I mean, see the intelligence that he's got to drop in behind and No, the pass from Jota as well is just so good to see, David.
In terms of, we'll go back on to Jota in a minute, but in terms of Kyogo, scoring goals, but also his movement is unbelievable.
Yeah, his movement's great. I mean, I expect him to score 30 goals this year for Celtic with the service they'll be getting, David.
Do you think he's the perfect replacement for Edward?
I think they're completely different players, but I think you can see that Kyogo is genuinely a really top player and a player that I think Celtic are very lucky to have.
Absolutely. And on to Jota, he's been a revelation across his 2 months in Scotland. And he put in an effervescent display on Tuesday night. And yeah, you could argue the case that Varos weren't a good team, but you've got to beat what's in front of you. And that's exactly what Celtic did the other night. And Jota played a massive part in that.
Oh, Celtic did. I mean, see in the end, David, I thought Celtic could have won by 4 or 5 goals. I mean, just look at the David Turnbull chance that he missed as well, and you've got the Callum McGregor penalty as well. So there has been so many chances for Celtic.
Yeah. And Jota has actually, I picked up a stat here. He's on Tuesday, that pass earned him a 7th goal contribution free from his own boot in only 9 games. That's very good stats there, Regan.
Oh, I mean, you look at Jota, he's been so good for Celtic. I mean, I'll be surprised if there's not a few clubs that come in and say, Celtic £6 million, we'll up it to 15.
One thing I didn't notice back on the language side of things, Regan, I didn't realise Kyogo Furuhashi doesn't speak English. Does it surprise you the way that he started his time at Celtic very exclusively well?
Possibly, but I think in terms of Kyogo, he's probably just that good that he can manage any situation.
Yeah, absolutely. But Jota says in his interview with the Scotsman, saying, actually, it's funny because I said to Kyogo, if you didn't learn English, then it's no worries because I will try to learn some Japanese so we can talk. And it would be funny if Jota could speak the proper English but also speak a bit of Japanese as well.
No, it definitely would, because it would make them two even closer and hopefully score more goals for Celtic as well, David.
The thing about them two players as well is there's still a lot more to come. I mean, we're not even past Halloween. We're speaking about how good a relationship this is.
It's a great time. I mean, you have to look at Celtic and say they're doing some great things, and I think you just need to look at Ange because he might be looking to say, I'm going to go back over to Japan and I'm going to go back over to Portugal, because you need to remember as well, David, that Celtic have not got a chief scout or a head of recruitment as well.
Russell Boyce has came in. Russell, I hope you're well, my friend. A contributor to this show. I'm just trying to get this up. He says, spot on, Regan. He's just that good. Universal language of football is more important than his English.
True, Russell.
In terms of... Is that enough? In terms of the performance on Tuesday night, really impressive from a Celtic point of view. Lots of positives. I mean, the first half 0-0, but you look at the second half and Furuhashi scored a goal, and it was just a Varos side that didn't offer any answers after that.
I mean, I watched this same Varos side this time last season, but I thought Celtic just ran straight over the top of them. I mean, I think it just shows the way that Ange's got them playing. Someone that people don't seem to be mentioning a lot is Joe Hart. I think Joe Hart's been a big influence because, as we know, Barkas was not a very good at keeping the ball at the net. I think that's helped Celtic as well. David?
I made the point about Joe Hart on Amy on Tuesday's show, Regan, that there seems to be a calmness about him at Celtic Park that there maybe wouldn't have been at other clubs.
Yeah, I mean, I knew a few people that spoke about Spurs, and they said he was a very good influence around the dressing room, so I kind of expected it, but I would say when he came here, he's probably felt at home because he's done very well so far.
Now, I'm on an article. I'm on the CelticStar.com. I think fantastic content if you haven't been on it yet. That goal on Tuesday is probably going to be up there with Tony Watt against Barcelona and the Henrik Larsson chip in the 6-2 game against Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, it was so good to watch. I think I've watched it about 500 times so far, David.
And I mean, it just goes to show that Celtic score some great goals when you're comparing through the Harsh's goal to Tony Watts against Barca and Henrik's against Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, someone you just spoke about there, Russell, he stated they think Celtic will score 10 goals in one game. So, yeah, I mean, Celtic are playing so well. I mean, just need to look at the St Mirren game at home in Dundee as well. Celtic scored 6-0 in those two home games.
Do you think the Celtic side now have turned the corner? They've got a wee bit of a springboard, and the international break has probably been an opportunity for Ange to go and get his own philosophy and his own ideas across. I mean, we've seen bits of dribs and drabs of it at the start of the season, but then they went a bit in a barren run. Results not obviously helped with Kyogo Furuhashi being injured. Do you think they've had a wee bit of a springboard now?
I mean, I definitely think that Ange is adapted to Scottish football a bit more, because I think Celtic didn't play too well in Aberdeen, but as long as Ange got the performance, then that was the most important thing. I mean, in terms of Celtic, I think they have turned a corner, because I think that like, see, in terms of that game last year in Ferencváros, I think Celtic fans would have thought, oh no, here we go again. But I thought Celtic were in cruise control of that game on Tuesday, David.
Yeah. Now, one player we're going to look over before we move on is from Fernando Henrique. Now, Celtic have made contact with Brazilian side Grêmio over the transfer of Fernando. It's reported Celtic have entered early talks with the Brazilian side for the rising star. Ange Postecoglou has rebuilt the team at Parkhead since joining in June. Kyogo, Jota and Lyle Abada have hit the ground running, with others such as Starfelt, McCarthy and Juranovic have taken a bit more time. The club's transfer plans are well underway for the winter window in a little over 2 months' time. And according to media outlet Globo, a representative from Celtic. Sorry, I'm getting this representative wrong, so apologies for that. As a black marker in my career, a representative from Celtic has been in touch with Grêmio to discuss a possible move for Henrique. The 20-year-old is a youth international and is deployed as a defensive midfielder. In Vegan, Celtic probably need a defensive-minded player in that midfield area just now.
Yeah, I mean, I said this last week. I mean, for me, I worry if McGregor doesn't play. I think Celtic are struggling, because you look at when McGregor got injured for 2 games, there was, oh no, here we go. Celtic fans were not happy. If you read social media, I think they were definitely not happy. So I think a defensive midfielder would definitely be a priority for Ange Postecoglou.
On the midfield front, we've seen on Tuesday how good Turnbull and McGregor were. Do you think they're a good partnership in terms of the triangle, in terms of McGregor, Turnbull and Rogic?
Yeah, I mean, I quite like it that Ange brings on Beaton for the last half an hour. So maybe he sees that as an option going forward, that he plays those 3 for the first 60 minutes and then brings Beaton to shoot up the game when Celtic are 2 or 3 up.
Yeah, and just in terms of the whole system, Celtic are at a level now he probably wouldn't have looked at it being a very good level 6-7 weeks ago. They're a totally different side now to what they were at 6-7 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, like I spoke about earlier, David, I mean, it's confidence. When a football team starts to get confidence, it starts to flow through the team, and I think that's what's happened at Celtic.
Yeah, absolutely. Just in terms of this weekend coming, Celtic, it's another big game. Just in terms of how Celtic went to landscape their season, and the fact that Celtic are 4 points behind, despite maybe not playing well in games, it just shows where Celtic are at right now. And I mean, is the title challenge back on, do you think?
See, for me, David, I think it's difficult to judge. I think in terms of Celtic, I think they've turned a corner, but I think it's too early to say. I think if Celtic can stay in touch by January, then they'll certainly fancy their chances. But what I would say is, if Celtic stay in touch by January, then it's the board's responsibility to go in backhand and not be happy and say, well, we're 2 points behind Rangers. We can just stay with this for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Guys, you might not have realised this, but the Daily Record have reported today that the Premiership winners, so whoever wins the Premiership this season, whether it's Rangers, Celtic, or indeed any other team, will not be guaranteed an automatic Champions League place, and will have the permutations of qualified football, which takes forever and ever, doesn't it, Regan?
David, I thought it was guaranteed, no?
Apparently, the Daily Record are reporting it's not.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be difficult because, as we know, Celtic have only qualified for 3 years in 10, so it's not a very good record. And obviously, Celtic have been to some very tricky games in Europe, and obviously Rangers as well. This year they played Malmo as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be hard.
Of course, a very valid point for this show, and indeed any other show that covers Scottish football. And we're speaking on a Celtic persuasion. You can step up an article this afternoon about this. Celtic Football Club today supports Scottish football's anti-racism campaign as it showed racism the red card. To mark the week of action, Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou and first team players have again made a strong stance against racism, saying enough is enough. Ange Postecoglou, I'm mixing my words tonight. Ange Postecoglou said, myself and everyone at the club again want to make a strong stand against racism in all its forms. Sadly, we continue to see things demonstrating that racism is still very much with us, and that just isn't good enough. Of course, some of these are in football, but let's get it right. This is a problem for the whole of society, which can manifest itself in our game. However, if we in football can help and shine a light in it and call it out, then that's what together we must do without question. Regan, a very strong message from Ange Postecoglou there.
And I think it's the right message. I mean, in terms of that last week for Glenn Kamara and Prague, I think that was totally wrong. And I mean, every time he touched the ball, David, he was getting booed. I think that was just totally wrong what was happening.
Yeah, and Ange goes on to say, we must call it out when we say no to racism. We must mean it and feel it and work for some real change. It has been a joy to have lived these experiences and to meet so many different people. I've always loved that kind of variety and be part of that kind of community with people of different colour, nationality, or background. And that is very true, Regan, because I mean, Ange Postecoglou has been to the other side of the world and obviously managed at the other side of the world.
Yeah, I mean, Postecoglou is a guy that's obviously done a lot in football, and I think he's sending the right message out there to say that there's absolutely no place in football. I mean, and in general life as well, David. So yeah, it's definitely saying the right things there.
And let's make it very much clear here that it's not only about players and coaches. I think we've all got a part to play in this, which is truly acknowledged here by Terence Pat, who comes in here saying the supporters should root out racism. It's not up to the players. The players have a part to play, obviously, but in terms of the whole, it's not up to it's up to everybody in Scottish football to cooperate and help make a stance, and a strong stance, I must add, to help try and get racism out of our game. I mean, we've seen the incident that came to nothing in the end, but there was the allegations regarding Jandro Fuchs a couple weeks ago for Dundee United, and that's just one scenario that could potentially happen when we don't protect our own. And Jandro Fuchs felt the whole support of his Dundee United family, whether that was teammates, the manager, Tam Courts, or the supporters. And so, Regan, it's important that we continue this love for our own players and make sure that this dangerous thing called racism doesn't creep into our game again.
Yeah, I think it's so important, David, and I think it's so important that people in a big position are speaking out and saying that it's not appropriate to do that because it's so important that we stamp it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Regan, the warm-up stage in this show was about the Rangers, so you passed that with flying colours, my friend. The last 20 minutes have been about Celtic, and you're in an absolute fire tonight, Regan. So, next up, we're going up to Aberdeen, speaking about Stephen Glass. And first and foremost, I want your opinion on the Dave Cormack interview. It got a bit out of hand, didn't it?
Yeah, it did get a bit out of hand. Stephen Glass is backing his man, obviously, because he brought him in and is friendly with him. And obviously, he's going to think that the media are going to be against him. But I just wonder, David, see if he's in that position, why would you go on and do such an interview? Obviously, he's backing his man, but I don't think it was the right time, because I don't know if you seen an article in the Scotsman, but Stephen Glass was saying that he appreciates that that Dave Cormack went on the radio, but it just wasn't a very good look.
Yeah, that was written by my very good friend Alan Patillo. So, full credit to Alan, because I thought it was a very good piece in the paper. So, Alan, if you're listening, a very well done, sir. But as for what Glass says, and there was a comment made by ex-Aberdeen player Peter Heverston. It was basically saying that he doesn't think Glass can go and turn us around. And Glass wasn't exactly happy with the comment, Regan. He was he treated it as an insult to him. And if he's treating it as an insult, the game of football is gone, as far as I'm concerned, Regan. Because I mean, I had a conversation with somebody in my office a couple of days ago who was speaking with Stephen Glass, right? Stephen Glass won't know the guy that I work with, right? But he's one of these guys that will go to the pub, have a drink, moan about Stephen Glass, go home, and then go back and watch Aberdeen the following week. It's part and parcel of football.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Stephen Glass, right, I spoke about earlier about that when it can become a habit, well, so can losing. So, in terms of Stephen Glass saying that his Aberdeen team's playing some great football, they might be playing some great football, but they're not getting the 3 points at the end of the day, David.
The thing that I have a problem with, and I spoke about this to me a couple of nights ago, is Aberdeen are playing good football, and I can thoroughly acknowledge that. But one issue is the defensive unit isn't a defensive unit. They're getting open all the time.
See, I thought Scott Brown would maybe help with that, maybe because he's so experienced in the midfield. But Aberdeen have got a very good squad, David, as you know. So I'm surprised, because I thought Aberdeen would be third place this season, but it's not looking good for them for Aberdeen this season so far.
Yeah. And Alan says in his article in the Scotsman today, saying no one can accuse Stephen Glass of existing in a bubble, even in these COVID-conscious times. He normally doesn't listen to the radio, but he made a point of listening in on Monday night as Aberdeen chairman Dave Cormack defended his under-fire manager in a remarkable interview. If you're asking me, Regan, I think he'll get till Christmas.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he'll get till Christmas, but simply because they're playing Rangers, they're playing Hearts. So I don't know if the Aberdeen fans will put up with Aberdeen losing 13, 12 games in a row. I don't think that's acceptable for a club like Aberdeen.
Well, here's the bottom line. If Aberdeen go to the 1st of December or the start of December when they play Livingston at home, that will have been 16 without a win, which is not catastrophic. I don't think it's the right word to use, but it'll be damaging for a club of Aberdeen Football Club's size.
Yeah, well, David, I think it is catastrophic, because if you look at the heights that Derek McInnes took Aberdeen to, they were at the Scottish Cup finals against Celtic and semi-finals against Rangers and European football. Now, in the space of 1 year, where Aberdeen fans were saying Derek must go, well, I think they would take Derek back in a minute.
Yeah. Indeed, what Peter Heverston, who played with Glass at Aberdeen, he says that he made the point that there are drinkers down as local who are more ruthless than Glass, who he did also describe as one of the nicest boys I've met. And I can thoroughly agree with that. But also, I look at this the other side, and I've been in this media game for 10, 11 years now, Regan. I can acknowledge that I can go to the pub on a Saturday night, and people will speak about football, people will speak about managers, people will speak about players not doing well. But there's another side to this by saying if you're getting worried about what people are saying in the media and what people are saying in pubs, it's a massive concern externally.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure will probably get to him because it's his first proper job. I know he managed the squad in America, but it was only the I think it was the under 17s, was it, David? The under
Yeah,
18s. So I think it's a big step up for him to all of a sudden take probably the third biggest budget in Scotland, where he's expected to do well and get to cup finals, semi-finals, and obviously European football as well.
And the one thing that I would have a problem with, and I'm sure my Aberdeen colleagues that are on this show, and Glenn Shuden and Grant Campbell probably acknowledge what I'm going to say here. Aberdeen play Hibs the Saturday at Pittodrie and then play Hearts the following Saturday. And because of this vaccine certificate that's obviously coming in, we're noticing that Aberdeen are pretty much waiting until the SFA and the Scottish Government. We're not expecting more than 10,000 people, so we don't need the vaccines. And it's frustrating and detesting fans of both Edinburgh clubs, indeed Hearts and Hibs, because they're looking at this as a great away day first and foremost, but also looking at this as a away day and going, right, we're doing very, very well in the league. Let's look at this as an opportunity to support our team, but also get some much needed points on the board. And if we can go 3 hours to make sure we get the 3 points, we've done that. And their numbers will decline because of this vaccine certificate, which is hugely disappointing and frustrating.
Yeah, well, I think Aberdeen need as many supporters there as possible, and obviously they need to get back to winning ways as possible, because as you know, David, it's going to be so difficult for them to get out of that way of thinking if they keep getting beat every week.
Absolutely. By the way, I got told that I was at the Dundee United press conference today. I actually got told that Stephen Glass has just got a house in Montrose, so I seriously hope all the Aberdeen supporters don't make a travel up to Montrose. Lovely place, Montrose, I must say. Cracking ground and cracking football club in terms of Montrose. But Glass still believed after the radio comments that it was unfair and underlined what he believed is a conspiracy against him and the club. Do you think the BBC media, in terms of Kenny McIntyre, Darryl Broadfoot, John Collins, and I forgot the other guy that was on, do you think they kind of took a wee bit of a dislike to Cormac in a way?
I know Kenny through social media, and
he's a good man.
Yeah, I mean, I think he handled the interview okay, but I think Glass is probably just taking the ick because Dave Cormack's obviously took the opportunity, because I think he's obviously making a rod for his own back by going on one of the biggest Scottish football shows to go on, because these programmes are looking for a soundbite, as they would say, David.
Yeah, but the thing I take out of this, and I'm not trying to defend Glass by any stretch of imagination, is Cormac took the opportunity to look at Robbie Nielsen and get beat by Brora Rangers and various other managers such as Carl Davidson, and the predicament he was in before Johnston went on to win the double. And as much as you can compare that, there's also the other side to this that suggests that you look at this from every context possible. I think Stephen Glass isn't going to turn this around.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to look at last season when Neil Lennon had 2 wins in 12. Celtic fans were wanting Neil Lennon out, and that never turned out well either. I mean, I think Stephen Glass obviously is his first job in management, but he needs to realise the stature of club that he's dealing with here. It's different if you're managing a club in the Championship or League One. You've got a bit of time to try and turn things around, but when you're Aberdeen, it's difficult, David.
The thing is that Dave Cormack's not a chairman to panic. He's fairly robust in terms of he loves a limelight with the media. But also, he never panics with his managers. Derek McInnes was given a lot of time. I mean, Derek McInnes got sacked on my birthday, which is the 8th of March for everybody wondering. So you can send all your birthday cards on the 8th of March. But just in terms of McInnes' departure, it should have been long before it happened. And I was a big Derek McInnes fan. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But I also look at this other side and suggest his tenure at the club expired long before it did. So you can tell that Cormac wanted to stick with his values, and he's doing the same again with Stephen Glass.
Yeah, he is, but what I would say is maybe the friendship thing that can only go so far, David, because
Yeah,
um, Derek McInnes, he was a good manager for Aberdeen, and you need to say yourself when Aberdeen fans too quick to judge Derek because he, if you look at it, he was always changing his squad, 10 or 12 players every single season. So it was very hard for him to get some sort of mentality into the players.
yeah. So we're first with Aberdeen. We're going to finish off. We're going to bring you a bit of comedy in the last 10 minutes of this show, and not comedy from me and Regan. We'll obviously be coordinating this comedy, but it's the comedy that is Falkirk Football Club right now, Regan, and they've had a poor start to the season, and as much as they've picked up a few good wins in the early part of the season, they had a very disappointing September. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think they won a game in September at all. They only beat East Fife 2-1 in the 2nd October, and then they beat last weekend 3-0 at home to Airdrie. They've got a massive game now with Peterhead, first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, I actually watched some of the videos earlier. Um, I do enjoy fan content. I do enjoy fan media, and I enjoy like programs like this get access to Celtic to any other club. But it's I think Falkirk went the wrong way about it. Maybe because to obviously they knew the fans weren't going to be happy, and it just didn't look very good on Falkirk or Scottish football at all, David.
Well, the thing is that one fan made a question to the management and indeed the board, and that even in question on Tuesday night, the management Q&A. And it was basically about players that have been brought in and recruitment, and the chairman Gary Danes just stood up and says, "That's a statement, not a question." And I
Yeah,
thought it was extremely poor.
yeah. I mean, I think the way that boards and directors speak to the fans is not very good anymore. You just need to look at um, big clubs like Celtic and Rangers. The way they communicate with the fans as well is not great. And in terms of Falkirk, that's not good if they're trying to encourage more fans to come in through the door. If that's the way they're speaking to the fans, because obviously the person who spoke obviously had done his research on what he was saying.
Well, that was the thing. It was an unnecessary reply to a perfectly legitimate question.
Yeah, and I also seen that the director of football was a Holt. He was talking about the the players that he'd bought in during the summer window, and he was basically saying that these players are uh, he's one of the best players in the league, and he's this and he's that. But in terms of if you don't get results in the park, then fans are not going to be happy. One comment that I did see, David, was the thing that he said that in League One and League Two, there's a lot of Falkirk players that there's a lot of ex-Falkirk players that want to prove a point against us. I
Yeah.
found that I found that very strange.
The thing, we'll go into manager in a minute, but the thing about Gary Holt is he did a very good job at Livingston as manager before going in. He was obviously relieved of his duties last November, and he went to Falkirk, became the sporting director, and you looked at that and went, his experience will be second to none. He'll provide a lot of experience for the manager, which was initially David McCracken and Wayne Miller before eventually going into Paul Shearer. And you'd have looked at that and went, okay, great appointment for Falkirk Football Club, but it's turned into the complete opposite to an extent.
Yeah, and as we know, David, it's these clubs have not got a lot of money. So in terms of I don't know if they can wait as long as Aberdeen because if Falkirk stay another season in League One, it's not going to be good for the bank balance as well, David.
Yeah. One comment that he made was Bairn supporters have accused him of stealing during the question and answer session, although it's difficult to affirm this from the footage. His comments on Aidan Keena were concerning from a neutral perspective. The Heart striker remains in Falkirk's but Holt made reference to his disappointing scoring record when defending his decision to sign Jamie Wilson. Of course, Wilson signed from the Burton, but is now on loan at Elgin City. So it just goes to show where Falkirk are at. They're in a big predicament right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he alluded to them signing 20 players over his time, and I'm sitting there going, that's not going to be very good for the squad mentality when they're bringing in so many players at the one time. I mean, that's so many players to bed in.
Yeah. In terms of the way forward for Falkirk, there is, you'd love, I think, in any ideal situation, you would love that to be a way forward, but there doesn't seem to be a way forward for the Falkirk hierarchy. And Deans was very quick during this video or during the question and answer session to defend the fact that they're being run like a boys' club. But you could tell just from the body language, the management, Gary, and the hierarchy, that they are run like a boys' club.
Yeah, do you think that the board and directors they bother that much? Because from my perspective, if I'm a Falkirk fan, I would be calling John Yogi Hughes at the moment because he's at work and he would really do a good job and he's one of the best characters in Scottish football, you know, David.
100%, and I thoroughly agree with what you're saying. But and then if you speak to these chairmen, either publicly or privately, they'll all go and say, "Oh, it's a 24/7 job. There's a lot of pressure involved with being involved in a football club." And I can completely acknowledge that because I've been involved in football clubs myself, and I thoroughly get that it's very hard work being involved in a football club. It's better than some of the other jobs you'll get in life. Don't get me wrong, but it can be very hard work. But also, when things don't go right, it's excuses rather than solutions, and that's the big concern for Falkirk Football Club at this moment in time. And I'm speaking in an amplified noise, and I'm not even a Falkirk Football Club supporter here, but it just goes to show where they're at because we were speaking 6-7 years ago. They were in the Scottish Cup final against Inverness Cali. They might have followed big time here.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were playing well when they had what was it, McCracken and Lee Miller in charge, and then they sacked those two, and then they went to fourth or fifth in the table. I think Falkirk's a big club. I mean, I remember when they played Celtic and Rangers, and they had so many good players as well. So it's very disappointing to see Falkirk fall that far back in the Scottish football.
Yeah. In terms of some of the other sound bites that came out of this Q&A session, one of the directors, Gordon, I don't know his last name, I don't think we want to know, to be honest, but onto Gordon, and he was basically brandishing the fans in a very bad name for booing the players. Now, I can understand booing if it's justifiably done. I mean, if you're playing football not the right way, if you're right to boo your players. I mean, I was at Hibs United last weekend, Regan. Hibs have had a good start to the season. And Jack Ross has done a good job at Hibs, and they were still booing the players at half time, and they were only 1-0 down, and it wasn't exactly a great performance from either side. Yet Falkirk, the hierarchy at Falkirk, look at this and go and say, okay, we'll use this question and answer session to demeanour the supporters and say, right, you can't boo the players because it will affect their performance. And I don't think it's right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they're inviting supporters into the ground and then they're not allowed to say what they think.
Well, a lot of these supporters will spend their hard-earned money for League One football, which, for history of Falkirk Football Club, they want much better than that.
Yeah, I mean, Falkirk are a big club, and obviously the fans want to see them back doing well, David. And if they're not doing well, they've got every right to be doing that.
Yeah. Another thing that I found a bit disrespectful, Gary Deans was speaking about when Falkirk play other teams, and he was like, why do other teams raise their game when playing Falkirk? Because a lot of the players that have left Falkirk have went on other teams that are in Falkirk's league. And I found that very disrespectful, Regan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look at it from this point of view, Celtic people raise their game playing Celtic or Rangers, right? But to say that they raise their game, so that's part of the problem why Falkirk are not doing well, then surely Falkirk should do well and rise above that and say, well, we're going to try and do better here. But instead, he's just trying to look for anything to blame it, you know, because Falkirk are a big club and he's just probably a bit worried that he's not doing too well at the moment.
Now, I write for the Peterhead programme. I do the opposition analysis for the Peterhead Football Club programme. And who did Peterhead play at home on Saturday? Falkirk. So I use this as a great incentive for my March programme on Saturday. I mentioned in the March programme when I was writing my notes this morning for the guy Ken Morton at the club that they've got Michael Roof on loan from Aberdeen. Terrific striker, just needs a bit of maturity in his game. Declan McDade, he's been putting the scrap people a bit by Dundee. They've got a lot of good players in there, Regan.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good game, but like you say, I think Falkirk need to win so bad this weekend, just in terms of a mentality thing, especially what's going on at the club this week. It'll not be great because you know what will happen then. The media will jump on it and Falkirk will get more press that they're not doing well, and I'll not be good for the club as well. So I think Falkirk could be looking for a big 3 points to try and settle everything down again for them.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. Much appreciated. Regan, I'm led to believe you're going to be on every Thursday night moving forward, eh?
I will be, David. Thank you for having me. It's
yeah.
good.
So you'll need to tune in every Thursday night, as you do every other night for that matter, and just listen to us speaking about Scottish football. If we speak rubbish, just tell us because we can much appreciate it and we can adapt it. So if we're speaking rubbish, just tell us. But no, thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll see you again tomorrow night. The one and only Mr. Colin Watt is coming on alongside. I'm coming on again tomorrow, and I might be wrong, but I think Jake Gray's coming on as well. So here's hoping we can get a really good show again tomorrow as we preview the Premiership action from the weekend, but also we'll go over the Rangers game from tonight. So from myself and from Regan, thanks very much.
See ya.